The provocation. The twin suns of Novus Terra cast long shadows across the settlement of Hope's Landing as Commander Elena Reyes completed her inspection of the perimeter defenses. 3 years into the colonization of humanity's first extrasolar planet, and progress exceeded all expectations. 20,000 colonists had transformed the initial prefabricated shelters into a thriving community with hydroponics farms, manufacturing facilities, and even the beginnings of a planetary university. "Another beautiful sunset, Commander," said Lieutenant Marcus Chen, falling into step beside her. "Hard to believe this was all empty plains when we landed." Elena nodded, her eyes scanning the horizon where construction mechs worked to expand the settlement's boundaries. "The quarterly report shows we're 6 months ahead of schedule. Earth Council is pleased." Before Marcus could respond, their comms crackled to life. "Commander Reyes," came the urgent voice of Dr. Samira Khalid, their chief astronomer. "We've detected an object decelerating into orbit. It's massive, and it's definitely not one of ours." Elena and Marcus exchanged looks of surprise. The next supply ship from Earth wasn't due for months. "Sound alert level 2, Elena ordered. "I want all non-essential personnel inside protective shelters. Military units to defensive positions, observational only. No aggressive posturing." Within an hour, Elena stood in the colony's command center, surrounded by her senior staff as they watched the massive object slide into a perfect orbit around Novus Terra. "It's approximately 3 kilometers in length," Dr. Khalid reported, adjusting the main view screen. "Artificial construct, no question. And it's scanning us. Thoroughly." "First contact," whispered Deputy Governor Jackson, his voice a mixture of awe and apprehension. "We've prepared for this possibility, but never truly expected it." "We're receiving a transmission," announced Communications Officer Patel. They're speaking English." "They must have intercepted and analyzed our communications," Elena said. "Put it through." The view screen flickered, revealing a humanoid figure with iridescent blue-green skin, large almond-shaped eyes, and a slender build. When it spoke, its mouth moved in perfect synchronization with the words. "Greetings, humans of Earth Colony Designation, Hope's Landing. I am Ambassador Vexlor of the Vexari Hegemony. We have been observing your development with great interest." The following days were a whirlwind of diplomatic exchanges. The Vexari claimed to be representatives of an ancient interstellar civilization that monitored developing species. They expressed admiration for humanity's rapid technological advancement and offered to accelerate the colony's development through knowledge exchange. Governor Jackson was enthusiastic. "This could advance our colony by decades," he argued during the council meeting. "Their medical technology alone could save countless lives." Elena remained cautious. "We know nothing about them except what they've told us. I recommend limited exchanges until we understand their motives better." Despite her reservations, the civilian leadership voted to proceed with the knowledge exchange. The Vexari established a small outpost on the planet's surface, bringing technology that seemed miraculous to the human colonists. Medical devices that could heal injuries in minutes, agricultural enhancements that doubled crop yields overnight, energy systems that made the colony's fusion reactors look primitive by comparison. For 3 weeks, relations prospered. Then, on a quiet evening during the third diplomatic dinner, Ambassador Vexlor made his true intentions clear. "Your species shows remarkable adaptability," he said, setting down his glass of synthesized wine. "It is why we selected your colony." "Selected?" Elena asked, instantly alert. "Yes, Commander. For observation under stress." Vexlor touched a device on his wrist. "The experiment begins now." Every piece of Vexari technology in the colony simultaneously activated, emitting a pulse that disabled all human electronic systems. As the lights went out, Vexlor smiled. "Your species' response to extinction-level threats provides valuable data. We will study how long you survive." Chaos erupted as the Vexari ship in orbit began systematic bombardment of key colony infrastructure, water purification plants, power distribution nodes, food storage facilities, each precisely targeted to maximize suffering while preventing immediate collapse. Alina's military training kicked in immediately. "Evacuate all civilians to the emergency bunkers," she ordered Marcus. "Security teams escort essential personnel to the backup command center in the mines." The attack lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, 30% of the colony lay in ruins, with over 2,000 dead and many more injured. The Vexeri ship remained in orbit, passive once again, watching. In the emergency command center carved deep into the mountains, Alina gathered the survivors of her command staff. The room was lit by chemical lights, their glow casting long shadows on grim faces. "This wasn't an act of war," said Dr. Khalid, her voice shaking with rage. "This was a clinical experiment. They're treating us like lab rats." Governor Jackson and most of the civilian leadership were killed in the targeted strike on the administrative building, reported Marcus. "Chain of command puts you in charge, Commander." Alina nodded, feeling the weight of 20,000 lives on her shoulders. Status report. The news was grim. Medical supplies were limited. Food and water would last perhaps 2 weeks with rationing. All long-range communications were destroyed, meaning no way to contact Earth for help that would take years to arrive anyway. "The Vexari outpost is still intact," said Security Chief Rodriguez. "They're just watching, recording our response." "What do they want?" asked Patel. "Data," answered Dr. Khalid bitterly. Ambassador Vexlor said it himself. "They want to see how we respond to an extinction-level threat." Alina stood, her decision made. "Then let's show them something they've never seen before. They think they're studying us. We're going to study them right back." She turned to Chief Engineer Nakamura. "Can you get anything working with the parts we have left?" Nakamura considered. "Maybe. Some of our older tech wasn't affected by their pulse. Anything not connected to the main grid or running on isolation protocols." "Good. Start salvaging everything useful." Alina turned to Rodriguez. "I want reconnaissance on that Vexeri outpost. Careful observation only. They're watching for our reaction, so let's not give them one yet." As her team dispersed to their tasks, Alina stared at the tactical display showing the Vexeri ship in orbit. They had superior technology, weapons that could vaporize the entire colony in seconds if they wished. But they hadn't. They wanted to watch humans struggle. "They've made a critical error," she murmured to herself. "They've given us something to fight for, and they've underestimated what humans become when provoked." Over the next 3 days, Hope's Landing transformed. The initial shock and horror gave way to a cold, focused fury. The colonists, scientists, engineers, farmers, and teachers became an army united by survival. Rodriguez's reconnaissance teams returned with critical intelligence. "The Vexeri outpost has 5 individuals inside. They're monitoring us continuously, but seem to have no expectation that we could threaten them." Nakamura's engineering teams made breakthrough after breakthrough. "We've managed to salvage and isolate enough components to build a rudimentary EMP device," he reported. "And we've discovered something strange. The Vexeri technology reacts oddly to certain frequencies in our old analog communication systems." Dr. Khalid, analyzing the data from the attack, made the most startling discovery. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but also highly specialized. They've evolved along a technological path that prioritizes elegance and efficiency over redundancy. I believe they have no concept of jury-rigging or improvisation. Alina gathered her core team in the darkened command center. "I believe I understand why they're studying us now," she said quietly. "The Vexeri have reached a technological plateau. Everything is optimized, perfected. They don't innovate anymore because they don't need to. And humans never stop improvising." Marcus finished the thought. "Exactly." Alina pointed to the map showing the Vexari outpost. "They think they're watching an extinction scenario play out. Instead, they're about to discover what happens when you back humans into a corner." She outlined her plan, a dangerous gambit that would require perfect execution. As the meeting concluded, Dr. Khaled held Alina back. "Commander, I've been analyzing the biological data we gathered from Ambassador Vexlor during the diplomatic meetings," she said. "The Vexeri have an interesting neurological structure. They process information linearly, with perfect recall but limited creative synthesis. They can learn anything but struggle to imagine what they haven't seen." Elena smiled for the first time in days. "Then let's show them something beyond their imagination." The response. Dawn broke over Hope's Landing with an eerie calm. From orbit, the Vexori would see a colony struggling to survive. Rationed movement, careful conservation of resources, the beginnings of what appeared to be desperation. What they couldn't see was the network of tunnels beneath the settlement, buzzing with activity as the colonists prepared their response. Nakamura's engineers had worked through the night, converting mining equipment into weapons, communication devices into jammers, and medical scanners into detection systems. "The EMP device is ready," Nakamura reported to Elena in the underground command center. "It won't affect their ship in orbit, but it should disable everything in their outpost temporarily." "Rodriguez's team is in position," added Marcus. "Dr. Khaled's analysis of their biology gives us a significant advantage. They require higher oxygen content than we do, which means our emergency breathing apparatus will work for us, but not for them." Elena nodded, checking the chronometer. "Begin Operation Prometheus." The first phase was subtle, a failure in the Vexeri outpost's environmental systems, seemingly a cascading breakdown from battle damage. As the Vexeri technicians worked to repair it, the humans waited. "They're following expected protocols," reported Rodriguez from his observation position. "Completely predictable responses, no improvisation." The second phase began with a power surge through the colony's damaged grid, a deliberate overload that created an electromagnetic pulse centered on the Vexeri outpost. Inside, all their technology went dark simultaneously. "Now," ordered Elena. Rodriguez's team moved with practiced precision, breaching the outpost through access points the Vexeri had never considered vulnerable. Within minutes, all 5 Vexeri were secured, their expressions showing not fear, but utter confusion at the humans' ability to overcome their technology. Ambassador Vexlor, bound in the colony's makeshift break, stared at Elena with those large, unblinking eyes. "This outcome was not predicted," he said finally. "Your species should not have been capable of this response." "That's your fundamental misunderstanding of humans," Elena replied coldly. "We don't follow predictable response patterns when threatened. We innovate. We adapt. We overcome. The ship in orbit will retaliate," Vexlor stated as fact. Elena smiled. "We're counting on it." While Rodriguez's team had secured the outpost, Dr. Khaled and Nakamura had been implementing the riskiest part of the plan. Using components salvaged from the Vexeri outpost and their own damaged systems, they had constructed a transmitter that could communicate with the orbiting vessel. "The frequency modulator is ready," Dr. Khaled reported. "Based on their communications protocols, this should work." Elena nodded to Nakamura. "Begin transmission." The signal that beamed to the Vexeri ship wasn't a message but a virus, a cascade of contradictory commands designed to confuse rather than damage their systems. It exploited the Vexeri's linear thinking, creating logical paradoxes their systems couldn't resolve. On the view screen, they watched as the massive ship's external lights flickered and its perfect orbit began to decay slightly. "It's working," whispered Khaled. "Their automated systems are caught in recursive loops." The virus wouldn't last long. The Vexeri systems would eventually isolate and purge it, but it bought precious time. Phase 3 began immediately, as teams of colonists activated the Vexeri technology they had modified over the past days. "Launch the probes," Elena ordered. Small, unmanned drones, originally colony geological surveyors retrofitted with Vexeri components, rocketed toward the ship. Too small to register as threats, they attached to the hull at precisely calculated points. "Probes in position," reported Nakamura. "Activating now." Each probe began broadcasting the same frequency that had affected the Vexari technology earlier, but amplified and precisely tuned. The effect was immediate. The ship's shields flickered and failed in cascading sections. "They're preparing to fire," shouted the sensor operator. "Activate the final phase," Alina commanded. Deep in the colony's minds, engineers activated a device cobbled together from the colony's original deflector shields and Vexari medical technology. It projected a field that didn't stop the energy weapons but redirected them, sending the destructive force back toward the ship. The Vexari vessel shuddered as its own weapons fire reflected back, damaging key systems. More importantly, it created the opening Alina had been waiting for. "Transmit the message," she ordered. The message was simple: surrender or be destroyed. It was a bluff, but the Vexari didn't know that. What they saw was impossible. A primitive colony not only surviving their attack, but developing countermeasures that threatened their vastly superior vessel. Ambassador Vexilor, watching the exchange from the brig, displayed an emotion for the first time: astonishment. "Your species created functional technologies from damaged components in days," he said quietly. "Technologies specifically designed to counter our advances. This capability was not in our models." "That's the problem with your models," Alina replied. "They're based on rational, predictable responses. Humans aren't always rational, especially when fighting for survival." The Vexari ship's captain appeared on the view screen, his expression unreadable. "We accept your terms of surrender. Our mission parameters did not include this outcome." Alina maintained her stern expression. "These are our terms. You will leave this system and never return. You will transmit to your hegemony that humanity is not to be interfered with. Any future contact will be initiated by us, not you." The captain hesitated, then nodded. "These terms are acceptable. The data from this encounter is unprecedented. It must be analyzed." After the Vexari ship departed, Alina gathered with her command staff in what remained of the colony's central plaza. Around them, colonists were already rebuilding, incorporating salvaged Vexari technology into their designs. "They'll come back eventually," Marcus said quietly, "once they've analyzed what happened here." "Yes," Alina agreed, "but not as experimenters. The next time the Vexari encounter humans, they'll come as students." Dr. Khalid joined them, carrying a modified Vexari datapad. "I've been reviewing the information we extracted from their systems. The Vexari have encountered 17 other species across this sector of the galaxy. None responded as we did." "What made us different?" asked Rodriguez. "Adversity," Alina answered. "Earth wasn't kind to us. We evolved fighting for survival against nature, predators, and each other. We never stopped having to improvise." She looked up at the stars, where the Vexari ship had vanished. "They've been dominant for so long they forgot what it means to struggle." 6 months later, as the rebuilt colony thrived with its hybrid human Vexari technology, a new ship appeared in orbit. Not Vexari, but another species entirely. Their message was cautious but clear: "We are the Arithi Confederation. We have received word from the Vexari hegemony about your species. We come not to test but to learn." Alina smiled as she prepared to greet these new visitors. The Vexari had intended to study humans as subjects. Instead, they had introduced humanity to the galactic community as equals, perhaps even as something to be respected. "It turns out," she told Marcus as they walked to the newly constructed diplomatic center, "that the consequence of provoking humanity wasn't our destruction after all." "No," he agreed with a smile. "It was our ascension."